Stop for a moment, right now, wherever you are, sitting on a train, lying in bed, or pacing around your room. Look at your hand, flex your fingers, feel the weight of your phone or the texture of the mouse under your palm. Take a breath. You feel real, don't you? You feel like a solid, continuous entity, a protagonist in a movie called My Life. You feel like you are the same person who woke up this morning, the same person who cried over a broken toy at 5 years old, and the same person who will eventually close your eyes for the last time decades from now. You feel like a captain steering a ship through the chaotic ocean of time. But this feeling, it is the single greatest magic trick ever performed. And the magician is your own brain, because if we actually zoom in, if we take a forensic magnifying glass to the thing you call you start to dissolve. The closer we look, the less we find. You are not a noun, you are a verb, you are not a solid object. You are a pattern of energy, a cascade of biological fireworks, a ghost in a biological machine that is constantly rewriting its own code. Today, we are going to dismantle your identity. We are going to strip away the illusions of the body, the lies of memory, and the deception of the ego. It might sound terrifying, and perhaps it is, but on the other side of this terror lies a liberation so profound it has occupied the minds of mystics, neuroscientists, and philosophers for 3,000 years. Let's begin with the hardware. The Ship of Theseus, the biological mirage. Walk over to a mirror. Look at that face. You recognize it, don't you? That's you. But is it? Biological science tells us a disturbing truth. You are a river, not a rock. Every single second, millions of cells in your body die and are purged. As you listen to this sentence, you are shedding a blizzard of skin cells, leaving a trail of past you in the dust of your room. Roughly every 7 to 10 years, the vast majority of the atoms in your body are replaced. The calcium in your bones, the carbon in your genes, the iron in your blood, it's all cycled out. The stuff that made up you 10 years ago is now scattered across the earth, in the soil, in the ocean, perhaps in the cup of coffee your neighbor is drinking right now. If you were to look at a photograph of yourself from 10 years ago, you aren't just looking at a younger version of yourself. From a strict atomic standpoint, you are looking at a completely different entity. You share almost no physical material with that stranger in the photo. This brings us to the ancient paradox known as the Ship of Theseus. If you have a ship, and piece by piece, you replace every single plank, every nail, every sail, and every mast until not a single original piece remains. Is it still the same ship? If you say yes, then consider this. What if I took all the old discarded planks and nails, and built a second ship next to it? Which one is the real ship? Now, apply this to yourself. You are the Ship of Theseus. You are being rebuilt on a cellular assembly line 24 hours a day. If we cloned you atom by atom, or if we slowly replaced your neurons with silicon chips, one by one, at what point do you cease to be you? Let's push this further. Imagine a teleportation machine, the kind you see in sci-fi movies. It scans your body, deconstructs you into energy, beams that data to Mars, and reconstructs you atom for atom using new material on the red planet. The person on Mars remembers your childhood. They have your scars. They love your partner. They finish your sentences, but the machine destroyed the original body on Earth. Did you travel to Mars, or did you die? And a perfect copy just took your place. If you identify yourself with your body, you are already dead. You have died 1,000 deaths since your birth, shedding bodies like a snake sheds skin. The body is not the anchor of the self. It is merely a rented house, and the lease is renewed daily. The software glitch. Are you your mind? Okay, you might say. I am not the meat. I am the mind. I am the software running on the hardware. I am my thoughts, my personality, my skills. This feels safer, but let's audit your mind. Where is the consistency? Think about the music you listened to 15 years ago. Think about the things that made you angry, the things you found funny, the political or religious beliefs you held so tightly you would have fought for them. Think about how you spoke, your slang, your shyness or your arrogance. If you met your 15-year ego self at a party today, would you even like them? Would you recognize them, or would they seem like a distant, perhaps slightly embarrassing cousin. We like to think our personality is a granite statue, carved and permanent. In reality, it is sand. Neuroplasticity proves that your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on what you do, read, and experience. You are not the unconscious processes. You don't control your heartbeat, your digestion, or the sudden adrenaline spike when a car honks. You are not your emotions. Those are just chemical weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. You are not even your skills. If you forget how to play the piano or speak French, do you cease to exist? And here is the most unsettling part. You are not even your thoughts. Try this. Close your eyes for 10 seconds and try to predict your next thought. You can't. Thoughts just appear. They bubble up from the darkness of the subconscious into the light of awareness. You don't author your thoughts. You observe them. You are the space in which thoughts happen, not the thinker of them. So if your tastes change, your beliefs flip, your skills fade, and your thoughts are automatic, what is left? The library of lies, the illusion of memory, you exclaim. My memory connects the me of the past to the me of the present. That is the chain that binds the self together. This is the most intuitive answer. It's what the philosopher John Locke argued. You are your continuity of consciousness. But modern psychology has bad news for you. Memory is not a video recording. It is not a file stored on a hard drive that you open and watch. Every time you remember an event, your brain reconstructs it. It's like a dramatization based on a true story. You add details that weren't there. You erase boring parts. You color the emotional tone based on how you feel right now. You are constantly editing the autobiography of your life. The you of the past is a fictional character, written by the you of the present. And what happens when memory fails? Consider the tragedy of advanced Alzheimer's. When a person loses their narrative history, when they can no longer remember their name, their spouse, or their home, do they stop being a person? If you define you by your memories, then you are built on a foundation of fog. And if that fog lifts, or if the library burns down, does the self evaporate? When we look at patients with severe amnesia, they still have consciousness. They still feel pain, joy, the warmth of the sun. There is still a light on inside the house, even if there is no furniture left. This suggests that being is deeper than remembering. The empty theater, the neuroscience of no self. So we have peeled away the body, the personality, and the memory. Surely, deep down in the center of the brain, there is a CEO, a homunculus, a little person sitting at a control panel, watching the eyes like screens and listening to the ears like speakers. Neuroscience says, when scientists scan the brain, they find modules for vision, for language, for fear, for motor control. But they never find the self module. There is no center. There is no throne room where everything comes together. Consciousness is a distributed process. It's a symphony without a conductor. The neuroscientist Sam Harris often describes the self as an illusion. Not an illusion that doesn't exist, but an illusion that isn't what it seems. Think of a rainbow. A rainbow is real. You can see it, photograph it, point at it, but you can never touch it. It isn't an object hanging in the sky. It is a phenomenon that arises only when light, water, and your specific point of view align. If you move, the rainbow moves. If the sun sets, the rainbow vanishes. You are a rainbow. You are an emergent phenomenon created by the rapid firing of billions of neurons, the feedback loops of your senses, and the narrative engine of your left brain hemisphere. The brain creates the feeling of self to help this organism survive. It's a user interface. It simplifies the infinite complexity of the world into a story. I am hungry. I am in danger. I want that. But the I in those sentences is just a grammatical necessity, not a physical reality. The existential crisis, nobody is home with this, is the point where the vertigo sets in. This is the dark night of the soul. If I am not my body, not my mind, not my memories, and if science says I am just a biological hologram, am I nobody? The Portuguese poet Fernando Pessoa wrote, "I've changed at every moment. I always feel like a stranger. I've never seen or found myself." This realization can feel like falling into an abyss. It feels like nihilism. If there is no me, then does anything matter? Why build a career? Why fall in love? Why try to be yourself if the self is a lie? But stay with me, because right at the bottom of this abyss, we find the trampoline, the pivot. From noun to verb, the mistake we make is thinking that illusion means worthless. Money is an illusion. It's just paper and digital numbers, but it drives the world. Nations are illusions, imaginary lines on a map, but they define our history. The self is a useful illusion, but the liberation comes when you realize you don't have to defend it. Most of our suffering, our anxiety, our shame, our defensiveness, comes from trying to protect this imaginary self. We worry about our reputation. We worry about being consistent. We worry that if we change our minds, we are hypocrites. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great transcendentalist, saw through this trap. He wrote, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. With consistency, a great soul has simply nothing to do." He was telling us to stop trying to be a statue. If the self is a process, then you are free to change. You are free to contradict yourself. You are free to be a different person today than you were yesterday. Being yourself doesn't mean acting in a way that matches your past. It means acting in a way that is honest to your present. Authenticity isn't about looking at your history and copying it. Authenticity is about listening to the music of the now and dancing to it. The cosmic perspective, the wave and the ocean. Let's reframe this with a final metaphor. Imagine a wave moving across the ocean. The wave has a height, a speed, a shape. We can point to it and say, "Look at that wave." But the wave is not an object. The water molecules that make up the wave are constantly swapping out. The wave is not the water. The wave is the energy moving through the water. When the wave crashes onto the shore and disappears, does it die? No, the water returns to the ocean. The form changes, but the substance remains. You are a wave. The universe is the ocean. For a brief period, 70, 80, maybe 90 years, the universe has curled up into a wave called you. You are the universe experiencing itself from a specific point of view. You are the cosmos becoming aware of itself. This paradox, that you are simultaneously nothing, no fixed self, and everything, the entire process of nature, is the secret found in Buddhism, in Stoicism, in quantum physics. You are a run-on sentence written by reality. There is no full stop. There is only, and then, and then, and then. The call to action, be the poet of your processo. How do we live with this? How do we wake up tomorrow and go to work knowing we are a distributed neural network with a grandeur delusion? You treat life as art. If you are a story that is being written in real time, then make it a good story. Not a consistent story, but a vibrant one. Embrace the confusion. When you feel nostalgia, recognize it as a love letter to a version of you that has died. When you feel anxiety about the future, realize that the you who will face that future doesn't exist yet. You will build him or her when you get there. Stop trying to find yourself. You are not under a rock. You are not hidden in a cave. You are not a treasure to be discovered. You are an invention. You are a creation. You are a project that is never finished. Being yourself is actually a process of continually becoming someone else. It is the courage to let the old versions of you die so that new versions can be born. It is the willingness to stand in the chaos of the present moment and say, "This is who I am right now." And tomorrow you can be someone new. The intellectual toolkit now, these concepts, the fluidity of self, the neuroscience of consciousness, the philosophy of identity. These are heavy, complex topics. They echo through the corridors of history, from the meditation halls of India to the laboratories of MIT. You might feel a hunger now, a hunger to understand how the brain creates this illusion, or how ancient cultures figured this out thousands of years before fMRI machines. But life is short, and books are long. We all have that stack of books on our nightstand that we swear we will read someday. The classic texts on philosophy, the dense tomes on psychology, the breakthrough bestsellers on neuroscience. They sit there, gathering dust, while we scroll through social media. This is where today's sponsor changes the game. Blinkist, download wisdom into your brain. This video is sponsored by Blinkist, an app that solves the problem of too many books, too little time. Blinkist takes the world's most important non-fiction books, the ones that actually change how you see reality, and distills them into powerful, bite-sized summaries called blinks. You can read or listen to the core insights of a book in just 15 minutes. Think about the topics we covered today. If you want to dive deeper into the neuroscience of why you feel like a unified person, you can listen to the summary of The Brain, The Story of You by David Eagleman. In 15 minutes, you'll understand the biological machinery behind the mirror. If you want to explore the Eastern philosophical take on the non-self, you can check out Buddhism Plain and Simple by Steve Hagen. It strips away the mysticism and gives you the raw logic of existence. Or perhaps you want to understand the origins of Western thought on this. Blinkist has summaries for Descartes, meditations on first philosophy. Imagine commuting to work and absorbing the wisdom of 3 different disciplines before you even park your car. This isn't just about reading faster, it's about connecting the dots. It's about building a latticework of mental models that makes you smarter, sharper, and more adaptable. Blinkist has over 5,500 titles across 27 categories: philosophy, psychology, science, history, productivity. They even have shortcasts, summaries of long-form podcasts, so you can get the gold nuggets without sifting through the sand. Right now, Blinkist has a special offer for our audience. If you click the link in the description below, you will get a 7-day free trial. You can explore the entire library, listen to the books I mentioned, and see if it works for you. Zero risk, but it gets better. If you decide to stay, and I think you will, you get 25% off a premium membership. Think about the you of next year. Will that version of you be running on the same old software, or will that version of you be upgraded with the insights of the world's greatest thinkers? The self is a process. Make sure your process includes growth. Click the link, start the trial. Feed your mind. And as always, thank you for watching. The me that started this video is now gone, and the you that started watching it is gone too. But the connection we shared, that was real. See you in the next one.